Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Neal Adams this time. Um, he was the amazing artist on the very first comic I ever had as a kid and had a huge influence on making me fall in love with comics and making me fall in love with art. I used to draw, trying to copy all the, or not all, but many of the panels or figures in this very comic, my first comic. And eventually that led me to a larger world of art. I got it by the time I was 15. I remember I was into Goya and getting sketchbooks of Rembrandt. And eventually it led me to Picasso and Paul Klee and Manet and Monet and Maigret and all the rest. So if I'm stalking about some art museum, it would be all because of Neal Adams. But anyway, for a long time, I have wanted to make a video about sort of Neal Adams covers that have surprised me because I'll be in the past 4 or 5 years, 6 years, I've been searching out reader copies of, Silver Age Superman and related titles and Bronze Age mystery books from DC. And I'll be surprised all the time to realize, hey, there's a cover by Neal Adams. Hey, there's another cover by Neal Adams. So I thought I'd just do a cover video showing a bunch of those Neal Adams covers, mostly I think from 1967 to 1972. Was pretty much his heyday for producing massive numbers of covers. I checked out a lot of data on, and it may or may not be 100% accurate, but it gives you a ballpark anyway, on Mike's Amazing World. And they list 800 covers by Neal Adams. And, in some people talk about him being slow or missing deadlines, but at least in those early years, he was pumping it out at a level that I don't think we see modern artists do, and at a high level. So, oh wait, got things a little backwards. From my research, this might be the very first time he drew Superman on the cover, or a superhero, on the cover of Lois Lane number 79, which would be 1967. He had done, before this, he'd done, I think, 3, possibly 4 issues of Jerry Lewis, the Jerry Lewis Adventures that DC was doing, cover and interior. And then up pops this Lois Lane. So in my buying of inexpensive readers' copies, this is where something being in a bag can fool you. I didn't realize I bought something with a completely detached and split cover. I think I only paid $1 or $2 for it anyway. But if I had known, I might have bought a more expensive copy. So anyway, let me switch the camera around here a bit. So yeah, according to my little research, in 1967, he drew 25 covers, probably all for DC. His total record for DC was 642 covers. He drew 642 covers for DC. I find interesting the figure of 800 covers because I was watching a video with Naman and Utaku and Minutia Minute where they were comparing Jim Lee to Neal Adams. And Jim Lee, according to that same website, has done 818 covers. So I've done almost the same number of covers. Of course, Jim will continue to produce, hopefully for many decades to come. So here's a cover. We'll just stick to 1967, but I have no idea the real order here, of Adventure Comics, a Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes type story, with the Legion looking so sad because Neal Adams is drawing them and he can make things feel real, even though they're way out of reality. And also, I made a little stats here um, for for pardon me, gotta find it. For the adventure comics, he did a total of 16 covers. Now here is an Action Comics cover. The foreshortening on Supergirl doesn't look quite like it works perfectly, but I still like the cover. For Action Comics, he did 32 covers total in his career. Here's another Adventure Comics. That's a crazy one. Um, oh, and here I love, this is an amazing cover. I love this cover. Does he have some other covers where someone is like holding their hands over the world? That just looks so cool. So, like I said, he's done 800 covers in his whole career. And according to the same website, they track him as having done 241 interiors of comics. So that may or may not be a whole story, a whole issue. In some cases, a whole issue. Some cases, maybe a short story in an issue. For reference, Steve, sorry, Jim Steranko did 78 covers in his career and 30 interiors. So Steranko has a very short career. But I think of Steranko and Neal Adams as hitting big around the same time. And Bernie Wrightston, who maybe came a touch after Neal Adams, but seemed like the next sort of star artist. He's done a total of, he did because he's also passed away, 153 covers and 98 interiors. So compared to those guys, Adams is no slouch. Steve Ditko, I also got figures for, did 331 covers, but 729 interiors. So he was in it for a longer haul, produced a lot more. But when you think of all the covers Adams did, there we got a Jimmy Olsen. It's a strange thing when you switch between these Superman-based covers, which are often kind of in a goofy world, but then given this extra, I don't know, believability or extra oomph by Neal Adams. And then you go to the mystery magazines, which seems almost like a different artist. So, of course, the huge machines of comic book art, like Gil Kane, did 1,656 covers. Now he's beat out by Jack Kirby, who did 1,987 covers, again, according to my source. But some of these Superman covers have quite a serious feel to them. No doubt the story on the inside is not so serious or doesn't have such a weighty feel to it. Oh, here's one that I still have in a bag. I've been trying to unbag all of these. And the interesting thing about this one is it says Neal Adams cover on it. The comic shop labeled it as a Neal Adams cover. But according to my sources, and I double checked this, so this is both according to Mike's Amazing Comics and according to all the information on my shop, comicshop.com. According to those sources, this is actually Carmine Infantino inked by Neal Adams. So it's interesting, here and there you do see Neal Adams inking and kind of overwhelming or adding a whole new layer to these more traditional DC artists. For Lois Lane, Neal Adams did 17 Lois Lane covers. Here's another adventure cover. And it's a little awkward, but I mean, even here on this minor cover, it's a great example of how he entered, the movement of things he took to another level than what the traditional comic book artists were doing at that time. Lois Lane is always getting into problematic situations. Here she's blind, and I think she's the only witness to the crime. But then next time, she's off to jail. And Superman's being a dick about it. But I don't know. Adams just brought that higher level of emotion to it. And this one is incredible. This is one of my favorite Lois Lane things. Superman is being downright nasty evil there, cutting off Lois's oxygen supply. But Lois can get revenge here. She's got the superpowers, and she's going to throw a giant rock of kryptonite at him. Here's a Jimmy Olsen, which might be actually a Kurt Swan pencils and a Neal Adams inks. And for Jimmy Olsen, apparently Neal Adams did 21 covers. Now, wait a minute. There's the Lois ones. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I have two of the same cover here. I didn't even realize it. So yeah, I'm gonna rebag all these in nicer bags and boards. Some of them didn't even have boards at the shops I bought them at. So yeah, I can't for the life of me looking at that see the Kurt Swan in it. So I'm not sure. The figures are stiffer, and there's no one in an action pose, so it's possible. This one actually, here's another Lois Lane, and the sources tell me this is Neal Adams, but I almost feel like, especially this figure of Lois, I'm not sure if everything on this cover was drawn by Adams or not. It just doesn't have his natural flow to it. But anyway, still an interesting cover. This one is amazing, and this one is pure Neal Adams. You don't see other artists of this era, or even now, of course, doing covers that look like that. I love that point of view and the sense of drama. He talked about heightening the drama, using some techniques from the Bigfoot comics, the funny comics, the exaggerated cartoony comics, and applying that to his more realistic style. You can kind of see that also in Superman's pose over here. He did 28 Superman covers. And in 1967, I think I said already he did 25 covers. But in 1968, he did 87 covers. And during that same time, in 68, he did 17 interiors. What does... Put a little stick... Okay, this is Neal Adams, inked by Al Plastino, who's a more old-fashioned golden Silver Age style artist. So that I thought that was interesting. It feels like there's even more Lois Lanes. I guess it's because I've probably collected every Lois Lane that I possibly can. So I might have all the Neal Adams Lois Lane. This is an interesting Action Comics one, just with the multiple layers here. I sometimes wonder when I see a cover like that, was that the artist's idea, or was there some kind of editorial decision? Or did they even chop up, well, we will like a little bit of this cover concept, a little bit of that cover concept, throw it all together. I think this might be another repeat. Yeah, that's another repeat. I didn't realize, I thought I had called out the repeats already. Here's quite the Superman. He has, in his face has a bit of that Jerry Schuster, or Joe Shuster look to it. Married with the more dynamic body. Here's an early Batman. This one I learned was inked by Giordano, by Dick Giordano. And there's only inker's credits on some of these, so I'm assuming Adams did ink a lot himself, but there might be some that were inked by other people that are not mentioned. Batman looks really worried there. And then in a similar dark vein, in terms of the coloring and everything, is this Phantom Stranger. He did a lot of Phantom Stranger covers. I think he did interiors on some of these Phantom Strangers. Let me see. Not this one, no. In terms of the Phantom Stranger, I found he had done 18 Phantom Stranger covers. In 1969, he did 90 covers. It's pretty amazing. It feels a lot of the like going to the Phantom Stranger covers from the Superman, like I said before, it feels like a different artist, and that seems very true for this. Okay, here's one of my few iconic Batman covers. Unfortunately, not Neal Adams art on the inside, but I used to see this one reproduced all over the place. I think because it's such a bizarre image, and even just with a hand, he's giving it that tactile, flexible kind of feeling. I do feel like when I was looking at later Neal Adams art from even like 5 years later, he got, even though this stuff seems much slicker than what other people were doing, he got even slicker and smoother. And I think I like him when he still had a little bit of that roughness going on. And this apparently, again, I'm not sure, is apparently another Kurt Swan pencils inked by Neal Adams. And here is a classic Gothic image. I don't know if I would have guessed that was Neal Adams or not. Maybe from the hand there. And it completely, so much different looking cover, but from the same era, Neal Adams doing a cover for Marvel on the Amazing Adventures with the Inhumans. He drew Inhumans for a little while, and that's probably some affordable Neal Adams from the classic era that one can snatch up, or at least before he died. I don't know what the prices are doing, but it's not one that people are too focused on. But really nice artwork, and I think is it Kirby in the back? No, sorry, it's Don Heck and Sal Buscema in the backup with the Black Widow. Okay, and I love these covers he did for Tomahawk. And I couldn't dig up all my Tomahawk covers. But for Tomahawk, he did 13 covers. And I think there's another Western that he did a lot of covers of. I couldn't find it in my search through my collection yesterday. Here's another Jimmy Olsen. This one is an odd looking cover, and it's even odder to think that inside is some Jack Kirby artwork. Neal Adams over Jack Kirby, so to speak. Love this Phantom Stranger cover. They must have had, I'm guessing they had a different colorist work on the mystery magazines. It's just a very different tone color-wise. And also, the superhero covers seem designed to have dialogue in them and kind of a lot of space. And the mystery covers feel claustrophobic. And I don't think there was any idea that there would be any blurbs or dialogue on them. Like, for instance, compared to this Superman cover, which is kind of more ridiculous and has more space on it. Okay, here's another Kurt Swan, Neal Adams. I love this cover. I would like to think it's Neal Adams alone, but it does make sense that this kind of image would come from Kurt Swan, the happy, classic Superman and Jimmy. No drama or stress there. Although how he can cut his hair, who knows. And on the other end of the spectrum, the Phantom Stranger again. I like this digital effect with the Phantom Stranger just appears on the screen behind him. Okay, this one is crazy because this does have that dark feel to it, but it's a Superboy comic. I love this cover. I think there's another similar Superboy cover which I could not find. And it turns out that Adams did a lot of Superboy covers. I don't think he ever drew an interior of a Superboy. He did 27 Superboy covers, according to my sources. And I have two conflict. One source says this is Carmine Infantino with Neal Adams doing inks. And another source says it's Neal Adams doing pencils with Dick Giordano doing inks. So who knows? Oh, here's another kind of Superman takes it a little dark kind of image that I really love. I think I think these covers, some of these Superman covers, were really representative of a lot of anxiety going on in the late 60s. That now we kind of think of love beads and VW cars with flowers all over them, but people were kind of anxious, or at least the people working at DC were kind of anxious. And Batman, maybe that's why his Batman covers are most remembered, and his Batman art, of course, because they marry the superhero slight hint of goofiness somewhere in the background with the dark mystery kind of feeling of things and the supernatural. Oh, this is almost a repeat of that gothic image there. House of Secrets. He did a lot of House of Secrets covers. Where did I write that down? No, I'm sorry. He did a lot of House of Mystery covers. He only did 9 House of Secrets covers. This one is quite a cover, quite a melancholy cover over there. And they did put a blurb here, but it seems out of place to me. This kind of reminds me of when I complain about dark coloring in modern comics. I guess occasionally it happened in the old comics too. Another Phantom Stranger comic. This one seems kind of a wild and crazy image. It seems to, there's some Steve Ditko cover that looked kind of like this, I think. And here's Beyond the Unknown, which is an amazing cover. And there's another Beyond the Unknown cover that I couldn't find that Adams drew where grasshoppers are riding people as racehorses. Or maybe praying mantises are riding people as racehorses. But I love this cover. I love Adams doing science fiction. I wish there was more of that. So there's the House of Secrets again. And here is the House of Mystery. In the House of Mystery, I maybe already said, in the House of Mystery, he did 25 covers of the House of Mystery. He was one of a stable of cover artists for House of Mystery. I think Bernie Wrightson was in on that too. Here's a crazy kind of complex Phantom Stranger cover. And by 1969 he did 90 covers. 1970 he did 90 covers. Oh, do I have a double of that? Sorry about that. I guess I did not do a good job of culling my doubles. I don't think this is one of the really famous Batman covers, but I love this one. It is exciting and disturbing and creepy. This is one of my favorite Neal Adams Batman covers. Maybe in part because I haven't seen it reprinted all over the place. And here we have the stressed out Superman again in Action Comics. Even more stressed out. This cover always kind of creeped me out. His son is a beast man. I don't think Neal Adams ever drew the furry beast, but that would be fun to see him do that. And that had Nick Giordano inks. This one also has Giordano inks. Again, kind of evoking a lot of cultural tension of the 60s. And doing a really job of capturing things in mid-action with the way these figures look, sort of holding up the stake that Superman is on, and they're in the middle of pushing it up straight. Here's another one that is apparently Adams inking Kurt Swan, and there's just something interesting to me because Kurt Swan was such the I don't want to say rigid, but such a everything in its place perfectly, and by comparison, Adams was a bit sort of wild and unpredictable and all over the place. So it's interesting to add that unpredictability of Adams, the roughness, the slick, but he's both slicker and more adept in a way of creating reality than Kurt Swan, but also captures the sloppiness of reality somehow. I used to think with this that I had bought the first appearance of the Swamp Thing, but apparently not. Apparently it's not a key issue. And I don't know if this is before or after Len Wein and Royston did their first version of the Swamp Thing, but it is written by Len Wein. And I don't have many World's Finest. And this one's kind of goofy. Many World's Finest from this era. I think this may be the only one with an Adams cover, but my notes tell me that he did 27 World's Finest covers. Here's one that's important to me. This was my very first Superman. Now, it kept me from buying a lot of Superman afterwards because I saw this cover, and I don't know if I recognized it as the same artist who did my beloved Avengers. I think I probably did, but I definitely felt drawn to it because of the art. And then hitting the Kurt Swan art on the inside, which now seems great to me, I found it such a letdown that I didn't for a long time buy more Superman after that as a kid. But this is the first appearance of the Terra Man, apparently. He wasn't a villain that I was that excited about as a kid either. Although I'm sure I would have been happy to get the issue following this, which I do have now, but I never got to read as a kid. And inside is a backup story drawn by Dick Dillon with inks by Neal Adams. And this is part of what makes me unsure about the total. There are mistakes that can be made from my sources, because one of my sources said this was a Dick Dillon cover and with Neal Adams inks, but then the other source said it was a Neal Adams cover, and I believe it is a Neal Adams cover. It's too fluid, like the way the horse is drawn and the positioning of the Terra Man's arms and stuff. But so I think they got confused because Neal Adams inked Dick Dillon inside. It is interesting to think about, because it's not in my normal that a star artist would be inking other artists. It seems uncommon now. Here's a Detective Comics, again, not one of the iconic Batman covers, but a pretty cool one. I assume that Neal Adams used some special board to get that kind of effect there, or maybe added charcoal, but I'm assuming it's the drawing board he used. Anyway, it gets kind of a charcoaly effect on part of there. So that's a nice cover. Again, not the interiors. Yeah, Irv Novak's on the interiors there. Love this one. Phantom Stranger. Always love how the Phantom Stranger is just kind of subtly there. But the expression on these guys' faces is just wonderful. And of course, Neal Adams has no problem doing an extreme close-up of a hand, which many of us think is very hard to draw, even harder to draw than feet. Here's another great Phantom Stranger cover. I feel like Neal Adams really liked the Phantom Stranger. That's my feeling, by the way the covers are done. That could be totally my imagination. I think he did draw some interiors on the Phantom Stranger. I'm going to have to double check that. Oh, here's another awesome Phantom Stranger one. I really like the use of that purple pinkish color in the background. And maybe Batman is a cross between Superman and the Phantom Stranger in a way. I love this Batman cover, which feels kind of like one of those Phantom Stranger covers. The emotion, both the face and the physical expression of the character there is really fantastic. Oh, and here's the sequel to that first Superman that I ever read, the sequel of the Terra Man story, which I only got to read 45 years later or so. In fact, I want to reread the whole story soon, even though it's not Neal Adams on the inside. This is a somewhat well-known cover for Superman. It's not really one of my favorite Neal Adams covers. I I guess the concept is good. I much prefer the Superman that like this. And I feel like Adams, again, with the face of Superman, even though his style was so far from Joe Shuster, he wanted to do that Joe Shuster. His Superman was the Joe Shuster Superman, not the Kurt Swan or Wayne Boring Superman. That's my way of looking at it. Just updated with a body like a Neal Adams character. Now this one I might have believed was just inked by Neal Adams and drawn and penciled by someone else because it looks stiffer to me, but everybody says it's a Neal Adams cover. Overall, Neal Adams did 118 covers for Marvel, 20 covers for his own company, Continuity, 7 covers for Power Records, and 642 covers for DC Comics. In a list of people who've done the most number of covers, he comes out at number 17. I already talked about how people like Gil Kane and Jack Kirby were well above him, and of course even Jim Lee. Even lowly Jim Lee has produced a few more covers. He briefly, I think he did 2 Iron Jaw covers. I don't know if he might have inked 1 or 2 other Atlas comics. Atlas came out later, I think in 75. And according to my notes, in 1975, he only did 14 covers. So in 1970, I think I mentioned he did 90 covers again. In 1971, he did 99 covers. And then in 72, it drops down to 29 covers. 73, 8 covers. So I think by then he'd gone on, he'd realized he's working his butt off in comics and not making much money. He went off into the commercial art and just kind of kept his hand in here and there doing covers. This would also be quite a later cover. I'm guessing that's 76. Let's see. I'm going to check since it's a nice beat up cover copy. 77. And there's, to me, where his style had become a little smoother. It's clearly the same artist, but it became smoother and it lacked some of that just little touch of roughness that I think I kind of liked in his earlier covers. In the total 1980s, he did 30 covers. In the 1990s, he did 39 covers. In the 2000s, I have him down for having done 44 covers. And then in the 2010s, he exploded with 175 covers in 1 year. No, I'm sorry, 1 decade. Scratch that, yeah. But for him, a big comeback, I think because of the rise of variant covers. People would pay him to do variant covers. And there's another later on cover. Let's see, what other factoids do I have for you that I haven't come up with yet, or mentioned to you yet, that I've written down here? I was kind of blown away that he did 27 Superboy covers. I might have mentioned that before. He did 14 Strange Adventure covers, 10 covers for The Unexpected. Amongst his Marvel covers, I haven't even taken the tape off here, he did cover paintings for the black and white magazines and later went on to do paperback covers. I think he is a fantastic painter. He doesn't lose that sense of fluid motion, and he still has that, there's that slick reality and just sort of the slight sense of roughness in a way that I can't quite put my finger on. He did Deadly Hands of Kung Fu number 1 and 2. I only could find number 2. I might have given number 1 away, so I thought I had an extra copy. This was the first issue of Savage Tales I ever bought, and I always loved this cover. I mean, even just kind of standing in static poses, Kazar and Zabu have such a sense of motion there. And a lot of times, the good qualities of people's drawings don't seem to translate that well into their paintings, but Neal Adams seemed to bring it on no problem. I mean, here's another crazy example. He's drawing the Man Thing for Monsters Unleashed, and look at the figure of the guy he's holding the guy's head. I mean, it's just so much in movement and in action. Plus his use of colors, I think, in paintings is very good. Here is, I think this might be the only Savage Sword cover he did. I'm not sure. But it's a great one. He might have done one other. He did at least one other Savage Tales. So here's the final cover I've got for you. The Man Gods. But again, with the interesting use of figures and such. So anyway, anyone who's gone all the way through all these covers with me, thank you very much. I think somewhere I have a few of his X-Men issues. I consider his X-Men to be as great as his Green Lantern run and his scattered Batman stories. Green Lantern, Green Arrow run, that is. But I guess it's kind of overshadowed by the popularity of the newer X-Men from Chris Claremont. I highly recommend, if you can still get this Neal Adams art in this large size edition. But if I could, I would say thank you, Neal Adams, for introducing me to the fantastic world of comics, for doing such amazing work in those comics. And I'm aware of the history and how Adams helped push forward labor rights and original art and all kinds of things for comics. And he lived a good life, right? He achieved a lot, and hopefully he enjoyed himself along the way. He seemed like a happy, cheerful person. So cheers to all of you, and I'll talk to you later.